Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Troy Raszka, and I'm the Marketing Director for Pure Air Control Services.
And this is Frank Santini. I run the sales division here at Pure Air, and we're going to get going right away. But quick fun fact about Troy here. He was in the original rock and roll band at the University of Cincinnati.
I did. I played a little bit of music back in my day and had a lot of fun with it. And what you might not know about Frank is that he was a professional wrestler and the NWA heavyweight champion of Florida.
And I'm sorry we don't have video today, otherwise I'll show you how to put a headlock on Troy. Troy, it's your lucky day.
Okay, thank you. I feel blessed. So let's get started right away here. This is a free webinar, how to make your HVAC system a savings gold mine. First, I'd like to thank all of the facility executive readers for taking time out of your valuable schedules to join us today, as well as some colleagues, both new and old. Let's talk a little bit about Pure Air Control Services, what we do, and how we've helped a few of our customers along the way. At Pure Air Control Services Incorporated, we focus on the health, comfort, and energy efficiency of your facilities. So we look at things from an indoor air and indoor environmental quality perspective, and then should we find any issues via sampling testing, we can remediate them through a variety of processes. But today we're here to talk about how to save energy right in your HVAC system. And I want to start with a little story. We've been doing some work for the University of South Florida right here in our own backyard. We're located right in Clearwater, Florida, and of course University of South Florida Bulls are over in Tampa, Florida, and we were doing some work with their student housing, their residential housing facilities over there. We were trying to clean up some musty odors and some concerns that they had in general about the indoor air quality. And what they found at the University of South Florida was that it not only improved the indoor air quality of the student dormitories and student housing, but it also led to less work order requests, less breakdowns, and overall performance gains in general. So let's take a look here. Mark Hauser, who is the Associate Director of USF Housing and Residential Education, said, "We have experienced nothing less than positive results in all the buildings' HVAC systems which you have PURE-Steamed. It has greatly improved and extended the operation of the equipment and systems. It's enhanced the air quality for all of our residential students and cut back on maintenance work requests." Tremendous.
You know, this is part for the course here at Pure Air. We have many reference letters. I just sent one to a prospect in Nashville from an international property management firm. So looking for references, we have plenty of them.
Yeah, we are all about helping people improve the health, comfort, and energy efficiency of their facilities. So, you know, what does that mean, the health and comfort of a building? We'll start out with some IAQ facts here. And you know, most of you guys probably know a lot of this stuff in general and how it can affect your building and the occupants inside of the building. So the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, in a study, and then it was also followed up on and reported by NACA, said that 1 out of every 4 buildings in the United States can be classified as sick. And you know, so what does that mean, a sick building? Well, there's a lot of factors that can contribute to a building being sick, but not the least of which is microbial intrusion within the building itself, the air ducts within the air handling units. It could be that the ventilation exchange rate is not performing the way it should, so there's higher levels of CO2 being kept inside of the building and not being ventilated properly. You know, so there's any number of things. The temperature is too high, too cold. You know, VOCs such as furnishings, wall coverings, carpet could be off-gassing products. So all of these things can contribute to what we would call making a building sick. So what does that do to the occupants in your building? Well, I tell you, this was a Lawrence Berkeley National Library study by Fisk as the lead author or editor, and they found that 62 million workers experience 2 or more symptoms from poor indoor air quality. And these symptoms can include sinus irritation, itchy eyes, headaches, and could be indicative of the air handler unit, the ductwork, or it could be something new that was introduced into the building.
And Troy, you mentioned there was a study, I think it was a Harvard study you mentioned to me last week, talking about the human cost of poor indoor air quality.
Well, that's true. Harvard and Syracuse University did a joint study about the cognitive effects abilities of people under different indoor air quality, indoor environmental quality conditions. And so basically what they found is we spend 90% of our time indoors and in shared spaces. And this study looked at how the learning and decision-making functions of a typical office worker were affected depending on how much ventilation or how little ventilation was in a room. And this was the first part of this study, and they found out that by doubling ventilation rates, that test scoring in these controlled environments where they brought the ventilation rates up improved quite dramatically. Not to mention that 1 out of every 6 people who suffer from allergies do so because of bacteria and fungi that's distributed through the HVAC system. So, if you guys are managing a school, an elementary school, for example, and there's a high rate of asthma triggers happening in your school, I mean, that's going to cause student absenteeism. There's a cost that's affiliated with that. And so you can see where all these things start to add up to a perfect storm that's going to make your indoor air quality suffer.
The bottom line, Troy, as we get into this next slide is, you don't need a doctor to tell you that your office shouldn't smell like a locker room.
That's true. I mean, one of the first signs that you can tell if your coils are being fouled and it's being distributed through the ventilation system is that you get that musty odor. And sometimes it's referred to as dirty sock syndrome. I mean, it does. It smells like a locker room. I mean, or, something that's been wet and just moldy or musty. And this is because of microbial growth that is happening on the fins and other components inside of the air handler unit and around the coils. So not only does this microbial growth create allergen triggers and can create problems for people, but as it grows on the dirt and dust that is collected on the evaporator coils and the fins, it can also decrease the system's efficiency. So, I mean, right here, Dr. Gasana from Florida International University, says it all, corroborates some of these other studies. Medically, there's a direct association between poor indoor air quality in buildings and an increase in the prevalence of asthma, emergency room visits, and allergy-type symptoms. So this is a big hit on the productivity of your occupants or your students or staff, and it also starts to add up to getting those coils clogged, which in turn drops the efficiency of your system. So again, from this U.S. Environmental Protection Agency study, and NATCA has cited this quite a bit as well, they found that a buildup of only 3/16 of an inch of dirt on the coils can decrease the efficiency by 21%. That's staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 1/5 of your efficiency is gone with just 3/16 of an inch of dust and debris, which can sometimes look like this. But we'll get into this here in 1 second. As you know, as part of you registering and attending the webinar today, and we extended the deadline, we'll be having a drawing after the webinar concludes to find out the winner of the Phantom drone, and also we'll be asking some fun fact questions throughout the presentation, and if you get 4 out of 5 right, you'll get a $10 Starbucks gift card.
All right.
So let's take a look at our first question. Okay, a buildup of how many inches of dirt on the coil will decrease the efficiency? A buildup of 1 amount inches, what's it going to do? All right, we'll leave it open for a couple of more seconds. And we'll go ahead and close that. And it looks like the majority of you were correct and are paying attention. It was just on the last slide. But it is. It's 3/16 of an inch of dirt, dust, debris accumulating on the coil will decrease its efficiency by 21%. We can share the results there with you. Okay. And we're back. So, why PURE-Steam? How does all this stuff accumulate on here? Why is it so hard to maintain some of these systems? Well, a big part of it is deferred maintenance, and over time, if you're not proactively cleaning your air conditioning unit, the coils, the ducts, then you'll see a buildup of this kind of dust, debris. It's damp, it's moist inside of these units, as you all know. And so these are all actual pictures that we encountered on various jobs that we've done over the years. Mm-hmm. And you can see there's some pretty nasty stuff out there. One thing that you don't think about is these fan coils, or the fan blades on the blower motor fan. Most of the time they're scooped out, so they scoop the air and push it. And we've seen some of these things so caked with dust that the air is just going nowhere.
And what's amazing is that some of these pictures are for some very nice places that you wouldn't realize how bad the coils and the ducts look.
So, and deferred maintenance, we understand, all sorts of different kinds of facilities and government, commercial settings, education. They all have different kinds of budgets, they have different focuses, and part of what we're trying to explain here is that you could get this energy savings back from doing this routine PURE-Steam coil cleaning and then use that to put back into other areas, So, but one thing to consider about this risk-reward ratio based on deferred maintenance is a lot of the times, the CFOs, the folks that are in procurement, they don't understand the nature of what deferred maintenance can happen. It's like a snowball, like some of this big dust on these coils just snowballing down the hill because, maintenance isn't something that you can just put on a shelf and say, I'll do it today and I'll forget about it the next few weeks. Basically, what's happening with deferred maintenance is that it's an exponentially increasing cost, and, that is exactly what it sounds like. The longer you wait, the more it's going to cost to rectify the situation that you come up against. So we took a look at this Facility Executive magazine article. It was from the June 2017 issue, and it was an article entitled "A Deeper Shade of Green" by Shannon Kaplan. And so the U.S. Energy Information Administration provided this chart, which was published along with the article. And if you can take a look at it, and I know many of you are Facility Executive subscribers, so you're probably familiar with this article, but you can look at this graph, and everything that you see here that's sort of in this orange and like cantaloupe colored shading, that is all energy in use by the HVAC system. Heating, air conditioning, ventilation. So 35% is used to control the air temperature, 25% for space heating. Okay, if you have individual space heaters, they're taking up a lot. Space cooling, 10%, and then of course the ventilation, 17%. So I mean that all adds up to 52%, and we've seen some studies that have shown the energy usage up at 60% of your total energy cost from your HVAC system. So, you guys are aware of this. You know that it's taking up a tremendous amount of energy. You know that there's a lot of maintenance cost attributed to it. And so you guys start cleaning your own coils, and I think that's great. I mean, there's a conventional method that's been used for years and years now of cleaning the coils, and we don't discourage that at all, because I think any kind of proactive measure you can take to get some of this microbial growth off of there, even UV light, is going to help to one degree or another. But is it good enough, or can you go farther with the kind of savings that you can get and the kind of results that you can get, especially not only from an air quality standpoint, but from a system performance standpoint. So here are some things to consider when you're thinking about conventional coil cleaning, or maybe you're using it already. So traditionally, this conventional or traditional coil cleaning method is you would take a chemical foaming agent or like a detergent almost, and you would foam up the coils, and then you would use a garden hose or even a pump sprayer. Once it's got in there and started working on the coils, you would take a pump sprayer and just hose it out. And typically this hasn't been a green process. Now there's some things coming on the market that are enzyme related or probiotic related, although we don't really know what those probiotics might do when they get into the water system, which as we move through this list we'll look at. But so these really traditional or old school methods with the chemicals, they can actually cause damage to the coils. If they get in there and the parts you're not rinsing out just sits in the middle of that coil, especially if it's a big 8-inch coil across for the depth, I mean, it can just sit there for years and just corrode and eat up the coil. Chemicals will go down into the water system. So even some of these enzymes, depending on the level or how they dilute, might end up getting into the water table or the aquifer. Traditionally, these conventional methods only clean the surface of your coil. So again, you're going to get some penetration against microbial growth, fungi, bacteria. It'll kill them. It'll clean some of that dirty sock smell up, but it's not really getting deeply inside the coil.
And you can't see it inside the coil, obviously. I mean, we've done studies here. We pull out a huge coil, and we do chemical rinsing on one side and steam on the other, and you clearly see the chemical rinsing doesn't get in the middle of the coil, and you're losing a lot of energy efficiency there, which we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, Frank. I think that as this water pushes into the coil where it's fouled, it's going to just hang out there, and so it's going to look clean. It'll smell a little bit cleaner, but then you're still not getting really good airflow through the coil. And so basically that's what equates to very little energy savings. If you're not getting the fouling out of the core of the fins and the core of the coil and improving that airflow and that efficiency, that's where your energy efficiency is going to come from. And of course, like I was saying, minimal IAQ improvements. It will take care of some of the odor and the bacteria, but it's not going to get everything, especially that's deep inside. The other thing, as we'll get into with PURE-Steam, is that that coil, the traditional coil cleaning method, you're not really getting, with some of the pump sprayers and garden hoses up underneath the coil and behind the drain pans, you're not really cleaning any of the other blower motor assembly, the cage, or any of the other components. You're basically concentrating on the coil. And of course, when we come in PURE-Steam, we take care of all of the air handler unit on the inside. So let's take a look at PURE-Steam coil cleaning. So the basic procedure involves us steaming the particulate and containment area is established. Okay, so what we do is we come in, we have a boiler, and it's like a pressure washer in a sense. We have different size devices for different size of coils or applications, whether we're going into a high-rise, we have electrical units, we have big diesel units, propane units. So we can handle a variety of size of coils, air handler units, or anything. So what we do, we determine what's the right piece of equipment for the job. We come in, we set up a containment area around where we'll be steaming. That way, if any particulates are coming out, they're all contained. The steam operates at up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit to sterilize any of that microbial growth we've been talking about, and up to 350 psi. So the basic takeaway is...
Yeah, well, I want to actually mention something too here, Troy, is that even though you mentioned similar to a pressure washer, it's not actually a pressure washer. This is not Big Joe's pressure washing shop here. In fact, no one should actually be pressure washing their coils. It could damage your coils. This is a high volume, low pressure, 350 psi is low pressure, and a proprietary process that was developed over the last 33 years here at Pure Air, doing this type of work, and also doing almost, I think, 600 million square feet of building so far.
No, that's true, and we train every one of our techs right here at our Clearwater, Tampa Bay area headquarters. We have a training lab that our steam coil cleaning techs go through, and it has a variety of sizes of coils in different situations that they can test out all of the equipment and be certified out. Another thing to mention right now is that we are mechanically licensed, so we're a mechanically licensed contractor, so we can be inside of these air handler units, we can get inside of the ducts, we can take sample readings inside and out, We do very strict lockout, tag-out procedures with every single one of the techs that's working on this job, because we know the sensitivity of this equipment. We know the safety precautions that need to be taken. So we are a mechanically licensed contractor. However, we don't deal with the nuts and bolts of the HVAC systems. We just come in and hygienically test and clean them. So we're not looking to do filter replacements and blower motor replacements and change belts and everything. All we're focused on is working on the hygiene and performance of the system from the cleanliness standpoint. So we work directly with facility managers. We work with other big mechanical companies that are under contract, probably with some of you, your Trains, your Carriers, Dakins, to come in and do this kind of cleaning work.
In fact, when we go in, we always do what's called a CCVT test, a coil cleanliness verification test you see in the bottom of this slide, to demonstrate the difference we've made before and after the procedure.
Yeah, we take readings across the coils, especially on the big coils, and when you see our work order and everything, there's actually like a little map of a coil, and it has different reading points, and they'll go in and take readings before and after at every one of these spots across the coil to see where the most fouling is occurring and where we have to work the hardest to loosen that fouling up and get it out. So basically, it's flushing at 55 gallons a minute to remove any of that latent debris. The water extraction is maintained during the process, and what that means is one of our techs comes on site with the crew, and they're responsible for HEPA vacuuming the entire interior of the air handling unit, and we HEPA that water that's dropping out. I mean, this is a green, chemical-free process, so we're only using steam. Yep. The boiler heats it up, and it's only steam. There's no chemicals in it. In fact, it's the only process that's Green Clean Institute certified in the United States to clean your air conditioning coils and fins. So that's something to really take a look at. Again, no chemicals are going into the water table or the water system, so that's a heck of a benefit. Incidentally, Duke Energy has also certified this process for a $20 per ton rebate. If you have it done within that year, you'll get a $20 ton rebate if you're with Duke Energy. So when we talk in the future here, we'll have to ask you about that.
And we're the only company certified by Duke Energy to do that. And even if you're not a Duke Energy customer, if you're interested in looking at this rebate, you can call your power company and ask them about it. We'll be happy to meet with your power company to see if we can get certified by your power company as well.
Excellent. So here's a rundown of the benefits, the bullet list, right? The down and dirty. We got to see it, and we're going to get into some concrete numbers here in a second. But your indoor air quality, indoor environmental quality benefits is that it's Green Clean Institute certified. We're not going to put any extra chemicals into the system, into the water, no VOCs throughout the system. It's going to sterilize the coils at 280 to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is great, again, for microbial growth, such as bacteria and fungi, which we all know can cause allergies, asthma. And then, of course, the benefits to your bottom line. I mean, you're going to get increased air handler unit airflow. We estimate, with all of this experience that we've had, that it's about a 17 to 22 cents per square foot savings on your energy bill, which is great. Throw in Duke Energy, now you've got a $20 per ton rebate.
And we'll get more into the energy savings later on to give you more of a step-by-step how we figure that out.
Yeah, exactly right. And then, of course, by making the system perform more optimally, you're going to be reducing your work orders. The machine is not working as hard to regulate the temperature, the humidity, the ventilation rates. The airflow is much better. So that extends equipment life, and it's a lower capital expense. So it really adds up to some tremendous savings and making your mechanical maintenance a little more easy, I think. So hey, check this out. We're going to ask another question here since we're going on this quiz, and that is, PURE-Steam operates at a temperature up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, 450 degrees Fahrenheit, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or 375. Oh, it looks like most of you guys have been paying attention and are right with it. I'll give it a couple more seconds, then I'm going to close it out. Ooh, some indecisive people. Here we go. Yes, those who answered that it was 350 degrees Fahrenheit are correct. That was a good solid majority too,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
It's a solid B.
Yeah,
86%.
Excellent. So let's take a look at some concrete numbers that not only our building sciences and environmental diagnostic laboratory teams have helped with in the study of, but with some third parties that we've partnered with to take a look at how this amazing system performs. So we did a case study back in 2014 with the Continental Automated Buildings Association. So they're very concerned with like LEED certification, sustainability. They do all kinds of studies, and they don't do a lot of studies around the HVAC generally, maybe with some of the controls and that kind of thing, but generally not with like cleaning methods or anything. So they took a leap of faith and got into it with us for this one. And so what we did is we took coils that came out of the University of South Florida that were dead on arrival, and they were going to be junked anyways. So we said, can we take a look at these coils and see what we can do with them, in our training lab? And they said, well, absolutely. And then, of course, some of the real-world coils that they weren't going to replace that we were cleaning on campus for them. And this is just the 10,000-foot view of this study. It's a 14-page study. We have it in the handouts section, so you can go ahead and feel free to download it if you really want to get into every kind of bacteria, every kind of mold and fungi that was growing in there. But suffice to say, this is the top-level numbers. So before PURE-Steam, from the data collected and tested and analyzed by our environmental diagnostics laboratory, it was found that there was 154,000 bacteria colony-forming units per milliliter in these coils, and after PURE-Steam, it was below detectable level. There was nothing even being detected. It was a change of 100% improvement with regards to bacteria. Now, fungi is a little bit different story, but still quite excellent, because that dropped down to only being able to detect 60 colony-forming units per milliliter for a 99.95% change. So with CABA reporting and backing up our findings, we're seeing that PURE-Steam is basically 99.98% effective against microbial contaminants that's growing on the coils and inside of the air handler unit.
The same thing goes with energy and airflow. Pre-treatment, airflow was 250 CFMs, post-treatment 340, an improvement of 36%, and air velocity, 182 to 250, an improvement of 37.36%. Significant improvements in both microbial containment and airflow.
Yeah, it's excellent from what we've been able to see and experience, and what our customers' feedback for us has been. So, all right, we'll blow through some of this stuff pretty quick, but anyways, this was another case study that we did in conjunction with Georgia State, Georgia Tech. Yeah, Georgia Tech, yes, right, yep. Georgia Tech. And so this, Georgia Institute of Technology, that's what I think. Georgia Tech. For the short.
And by the way, this study was sponsored by the NEBB, so the two starred asterisk rows there, those are independent numbers from the NEBB.
Right, so you can see these improvements. So we've, much like USF, we've been doing ongoing work up at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is committed to sustainability. They've been conducting experiments in various different parts of building engineering and balancing. And so when we came in to clean their coils, they wanted to take that opportunity to test on their own to see what kind of results that they got. So yeah, as you were saying, Frank, that's absolutely true. The NEBB saw a 42.6% increase in CFMs and a 21.2% net improvement with the inches in the water column.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep, and also a significant Pascal improvement as well, you see on the bottom column.
Right, and that was numbers that we took from our coil cleanliness verification test, our CCVT test.
That's correct.
So let's take a look at our next question. This should be an easy one. CFM is an abbreviation for what term? colony forming measurement, cubic feet per minute, cooling formation matrix, or coil freezing minimum. Oh, it looks like we got almost 100% in on this one. Give it a couple more seconds. Okay, and yeah, a very solid majority got that right, and CFMs are cubic feet per minute. So in conjunction with the numbers and the data that we're able to glean from our own building scientists, from other institutions like NEBB and so forth, we are able to see tremendous gains in energy efficiency with PURE-Steam. But what about just coil cleaning in general, or what do other organizations say in general about the state of cleaning your coils? And so these, this was in some of the promotion for the webinar, and you get to see it, but they're actually big numbers as independently verified here. So this was a restoring energy efficiency through HVAC air distribution cleaning. It was a report published in 2016 by NADCA and National Air Duct Cleaners Association, right? And so what this portion of these measurements and this data represents is what they found on average in commercial settings. They did a tandem study to look at residential as well. So we can go through some of these. You've seen these numbers before, but it is. So what they found on average with cleaning the coils was they found the average temperature drop improvement at the cooling coil after cleaning was 5.4 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 40%. That the cooling capacity, or BTU output or heat transfer rate, the average cooling capacity improvement was 225%. And then finally, the cubic feet per minute, there's that answer, right? The CFMs. The average CFM improvement at the cooling coil after cleaning was 54%. So the question's findings, to quote the actual study, was that no question cleaning made significant improvements on the vast majority of jobs. And this was compiled by NADCA's Energy Field Trials Task Force, and they studied the improvements after HVAC cleaning. So let's get into some financial numbers, but wait, before we do so, because we're almost ready to wrap it up here, and this is where we get some real exciting stuff, but let's ask another question for your Starbucks gift card. And this is the average delta T improvement from that NADCA white paper was, delta T now, the temperature. All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. Yeah, it's
through a couple of different
NADCA
NADCA studies, Adam, so now we're just over 60%.
Oh, okay, yeah, that might have been a tough one. Honestly, I didn't try to make any trick questions here, Frank. I tried to keep them all pretty straightforward because I love buying people coffee. So anyways, let's get back to it and start to really wrap up with some of these consequential numbers. So basically, what our studies have found, what the NEBB has found, NADCA, even some of these US EPA numbers, is that there is energy savings to be gained from cleaning your coils, particularly with PURE-Steam, above and beyond what you've ever been doing. So our building sciences team here, and we're constantly refining this formula, but they created a formula based on our vast database of studies and reports when we've gone into coil cleaning situations, and they came up with this formula that kind of shows, if you look at what the square feet, what the tons that the HVAC system is pushing, and about what the average of the kilowatt hour per season operation, right, is, then you can kind of quickly look at this matrix that shows what, like let's say down here, a 25,000 square foot building with a 100-ton unit, right? It might cost, $72,000 in kilowatt hours when it's clean, right? The cost to clean it with PURE-Steam, if it's a big unit like that or a couple big units, might be in this sort of $6,400 range. But look what you're paying when it's fouled. $110, $1,000 over 72. So that's the savings differential right there.
You know,
You're paying this much.
It's important to note here, Troy, these are seasonal or quarterly numbers. So in the right column there, we're looking at the savings. And so that's just per quarter, per season. And we developed these figures over the course of decades of having our building science department collecting statistics from doing, you know, small 10,000 square foot office buildings to, you know, huge skyscrapers, arenas, and conference centers. So we have, you know, many years of backing these figures up, and have clients who have saved hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s annually on just power savings because of just doing the steam clean. And we have other services too, which we'll get into. But the fact that the fact that we can lower the pressure that's needed to go across those coils from getting all the debris out of there, in addition to all the indoor air quality benefits, is really quite remarkable.
It is, Frank. And I'll tell you what we can do for you guys today. As a matter of fact, we would encourage you all to do this, and we'll break this down in a second. But if you could email us your mechanical inventory, the square footage of the building or buildings that maybe you would want to take a look at, and then if you had it, you know, what your sort of average cost, energy cost is for those buildings per year, an annualized energy cost. What we can do is give you a free financial energy savings summary. So this is like a 10,000 foot view. We could look at a whole suite of properties. We could look at just one building that you're curious about. But basically what we would do is take that information you gave us, the nomenclature of the air handling units, you know, how many, what kind you have, what your square footage is, what the tonnage is, and then we could estimate a total project cost. And then in this report, and we break it out with charts and graphs and everything. This is just an example of what sort of the basic summary looks like. But we would show your first year life savings total. Then we'd show a life cycle savings total. We could show an increased facility value, an internal rate of return, a simple payback time, right? And your cost of delay, which is getting back into that deferred maintenance. But your simple payback is going to be calculated on the savings that you're going to be seeing from improving the airflow and the system performance. And we would also be able to add a line item if you're a Duke Energy customer and will qualify for that $20 a ton rebate.
And this is not a plug and play, you know, here, send us your mechanical plans and we'll do this in 2 minutes. This takes 2 or 3 hours to put together for each one we do. This is, you know, we take a lot of time and you know, spend it, you know, looking at your information and putting together an energy savings estimate summary that we think is going to be applicable to you. It's still an estimate, but we spend a lot of time doing it because we want to try to give you an idea of how it can help you.
That's true. And it's a valuable tool, not only from a facilities perspective, if you're going to take this information up to you know, the procurement side or finance, and they go, oh, well, you know, we don't need to clean these coils like this, and well, now you can say, hey, look, I can show you that it's going to pay for itself, and I can also show you how it's going to improve the indoor air quality, how it's going to reduce my work orders. We're going to be able to do lots of things if we can free this up. So, you know, it's a very, very handy tool, the financial energy savings summary. So, in closing, I got just a couple slides left over because I wanted to tell you about this exciting add-on to PURE-Steam that is called HVAC New Life Restoration. And basically what it is, it's a total hygienic restoration for aging or near end-of-life equipment. So basically what we do is it includes a PURE-Steam air handling unit and coil cleaning. So we will PURE-Steam the entire inside of the air handler unit. We get the coils clean. Then we look at the interior and exterior components and we'll garnet blast them. So it's a little bit more fine than like a sandblasting. But as needed, if there's bad areas that are showing some rust or corrosion, we'll garnet blast those. Then we will prime the interior and exterior components. We will pure coat the interior and exterior components. Pure coat is like a special antimicrobial, moisture-resistant paint. It's somewhat rubberized. It's flexible, so it will, you know, move with the contours and the breadth of the air handling unit. So it can have some stress put on it. It won't crack. So it's pliable and, like I said, antimicrobial, water-resistant. So that goes on the interior and exterior components. And then we also have a product called Pure Liner, which is very similar to the Pure Coat, that we can do on the drain pan as needed. You know, if you have a stainless steel drain pan, there's no need to coat it, you know. But if you have some pinholes, if it's looking like it's gotten to be rusty, there's things that microbes can sit and grow on, then, you know, we would definitely want to do that as part of new life. And we can also repair somewhat big holes. We have the ability to patch it so you wouldn't have to replace a drain pan entirely. So again, here's some of the IAQ benefits. You know, you're going to get increased airflow performance. It's going to be sterilizing that microbial growth, hopefully preventing it from coming back for a little bit of time. And then, of course, the bottom line benefits. It's going to cost less than total replacement.
Yeah, we have a lot of clients who get another 5, 10, even 15 years out of their units because they do this HVAC New Life. Now, look, sometimes you have a unit and it just needs to be replaced, but most of the time it doesn't. You can really add, get a lot more out of them through this process. So that's something that very seriously need to look into. If you think you have to replace your units, have us take a look at your units, because a New Life could be a great option for you.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of you guys that manage multiple properties, multiple buildings, that have multiple units, you know, it's like having to juggle sometimes with this cost of replacement versus restoring or just eking it along, you know, throwing more parts at it and whatnot. And so this really is a nice little cushion. You're going to get all the PURE-Steam benefits, but it's a nice little cushion to say, you know, these two have to get absolutely done. They have to get replaced. But, you know, let's see if we can't get a few more years out of these, get some of the energy savings of the new equipment and the energy savings from PURE-Steam, and be using that money to go back and look at future replacements. But again, it extends equipment life, less maintenance calls. You know, you're going to get better equipment valuation because you're actually restoring these products. So
we just did this for a major theme park, and they couldn't have been happier in our results.
And it's an ongoing process with them. They've had us come back now. They're really reassessing their inventory and seeing, you know, where they want to be able to put their restoration money and where they want to put their replacement money. The other good thing about New Life is, and I know some of you may have come up against this in the past, we were working with a client that was looking at trying to replace a unit, except that it was in a historical building, and the walls and other parts of the building that had been built up around this mechanical room could not be altered because of the, you know, historical relevance of the building. So they had to restore the system in place. And so for us to be able to get in there and clean it up and steam it and restore it was a considerably less amount of cost, as opposed to taking the old air handler unit apart piece by piece and bringing the new one in and assembling it inside of this room.
And sometimes it might be close to impossible to bring in the new parts. Was that you that was showing me a picture? Or was that our estimator? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Tanner. But yeah, they were bringing in, they had to replace a coil that had gone bad. We couldn't help it any longer. It was old. They didn't want to do the whole unit, and the new coil couldn't even fit through the two doors to get into the mechanical room and get put into the air handling unit. So they had to actually go back and buy two separate coils and join them up on the inside of the air handling unit. So yeah, sometimes you're dealing with some of these mechanical rooms, and just replacement isn't an option, or it would be tremendously more expensive than just restoring. So we're about wrapped up here. I know we've gone a little bit over. We waited for some folks to come in, so I appreciate your patience today. Don't forget, we do have some handouts. That is the CABA study and the Georgia Tech case study. You can download those and take a look at them. The Georgia Tech case study was featured in the spring issue of HVACP magazine as one of their case studies too, so you might remember have seen it there. We're going to go ahead and ask our last question so we can start to tabulate this, and then we'll wrap up. You'll have our contact information and such, but let's take a look at this last question, a real easy one for you right now to end it. So it is HVAC New Life, HVAC New Life includes the PURE-Steam coil cleaning process or service. This is true or false? Oh geez, I don't even think I have to wait much longer. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. We're in.
Everybody's got it.
Good job. 100% true. It does. HVAC New Life, it goes beyond the PURE-Steam coil cleaning. You're going to get all the same benefits and be able to do your restorations and juggle that financial money. So anyways, Speaking of procurement, as we were just kind of talking about some of the snafus that folks got into with trying to restore or have to try to replace in some sticky situations, I'm kind of talking to sort of the government agency folks here that are in with us today, but certainly some more of the commercial settings might be able to use some of this. But we have some new procurement options that are available to our city, county, state, federal government agency facility managers and procurement people that will allow you to single source the PURE-Steam coil cleaning process. So we just got approved and are now included in the Panhandle Area Educational Consortium, which is their Florida Buy program. And we're also included in the TIPS interlocal purchasing system. And so basically what we have here is, as you guys know, in working with government contracts and public sector type stuff, is that these co-ops, sort of lock in a one standard bid pricing for this service, and you're able to just pull these without going out to bid. So these are really good options. If you just want to add us onto your team and you have 20 units over 3 schools and you don't want to have to write a new proposal for every time you want to go out and clean it, you could pull one of these TIPS or one of these Florida Buy contracts and get right to work. You know that all the specs will stay the same and that will give the same level of service, and now the headache of going out to bid, waiting for the question period to close, waiting for all the bids to come in, see if there's a protest, all of that goes out the window. You can call us and get right to work. It's also a good opportunity to take advantage of if, unfortunately, you get into a crisis type situation. I mean, our hearts go out to the folks out there in Houston and Southwest Texas along the coast, but as these floodwaters recede and the mold intrusion begins, there's a lot of cleanup that's going to need to be done, and not a lot of time to do it in, especially where schools, universities, courthouses, sheriff's offices, all these agencies are concerned. So you could use any one of these contracts to get started right away, or our GSA contract that we have to be able to piggyback off of. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
And just to reiterate, we will, for anyone who provides their mechanical inventory, their building square footage, and their annualized power bill, we can do a free financial analysis. Again, this is something that takes us 2 or 3 hours to do, at a $500 value, because we want, if you're serious, you want to look at this, we can take the time and look at your information and produce a very good estimate about how much you can save or what you're missing out on. By using this process.
No, it really is a great value, and our customers really appreciate it. A lot of our facility managers, and of course, like I said, their procurement people that they work with to get these jobs rolling, really appreciate looking out at the long picture on what this can provide. So if you want to, if you have that information at your fingertips or can get it, we would highly recommend you do it. It's a $500 value. You just email Frank here at fsantini@pureaircontrols.com, and he'll get started. He'll respond and get started with any other questions you might have on getting you this excellent value. A lot of times, one of the questions we have, and we'll hang around for questions here at the end, but one of the questions we get asked is, how often do I have to do a PURE-Steam coil cleaning? I've never cleaned my coils ever, not once, or I cleaned them traditionally, and now you came in, you got me these savings, and so Frank, what's the general recommendation there?
Well, we did some work for a major defense contractor, and they bring us back every year, and each year, even though we're talking about a company that has a very good airflow, they do a great job of keeping their systems up to date, we still see 10 to 15% fouling on their coils coming back after a year. So we recommend coming back annually to continue getting those power savings, because we come back annually. The price is much less because there isn't much work to do, and you go back and you get all those coils cleaned out, and then you continually to build those power savings. Whereas if you let it go, just like anything else, you let it go for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and all of a sudden you're back into a situation where you have really foul coils, missing out on energy savings, and of course the indoor air quality effects.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Even a defense contractor who operates in a pretty sterile environment, making highly sensitive computer equipment and parts, they're having us out every year because, one, they like the savings, but they have seen that reoccurring fouling. So I just want to, thank everyone. I know we ran a little late today, but there was a lot of information we wanted to cover. I want to thank you all for coming. If you have any questions at all, I'll leave this up for a little bit, and we'll stay in here with chat and or questions. You can ask us right here, or you can go ahead and email either myself or Frank, and we'll be prompt in getting back with you.